The Wilderness Within You, Day 45 of Lent, Good Friday. Our reading is from Luke 23, verses 20 to 27, then 32 to 35. I'm reading from the New International Version. Wanting to release Jesus, Pilate appealed to them again. But they kept shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" For the third time he spoke to them. "Why? What crime has this man committed? I have found in him no grounds for the death penalty. Therefore I will have him punished, and then release him." But with loud shouts they insistently demanded that he be crucified, and their shouts prevailed. So Pilate decided to grant their demand. He released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, the one they asked for, and surrendered Jesus to their will. As the soldiers led him away, they seized Simon from Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, and put the cross on him, and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed for him. 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching. This is it then. I am still hungry for more time with him, but the story is ending. It is over, and what will happen now? I still have so many questions. There is so much still unsettled in my heart. "Don't die, Jesus," I whisper. "Please don't die." I haven't found out the thing I wanted to know most of all. I needed to ask you, what do you think of me? And it seemed so awful in that moment, so self-absorbed and narcissistic to bring that question up. I expect you agree. But Jesus, as soon as I whisper the words, somehow he hears me. I can't explain how I see it or what happens, because he does not turn his head. How could he turn his head? He has a cap of stuff like Sussex gorse with its long, lacerating thorns jammed down onto it. His arms wrenched back and his wrists nailed hard to the wood. His chest heaving in great breaths of agony. His head already rests back against the cruelty of the thorns. No, he doesn't turn his head. All I know is, somehow I can suddenly see his face, dust and blood and tears and sweat all mingling there. His right eye is swollen, and so are his lips. Under all the mess and the tangling locks of hair, he is very pale. He looks awful. Just for a second, I see into his eyes, see his lips frame a faint reply. I love you, he says. And then they lift the cross. He says nothing more after that, except the things you already know. Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. Woman, behold your son. Behold your mother. My God, why have you forsaken me? I'm thirsty. It is finished. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. And then just stillness. His body slumps, no longer struggling, just hanging from the nails. After a while, I go home. What am I to do with that I love you? What am I to understand by it? I wanted to know what he thought of me, and by that I meant, how did he evaluate me? I suppose I was looking for some kind of grade or an end-of-term report. I wanted a one-on-one appraisal process. I mean, to be frank, I could guess a lot of it myself from what I already know of him. When I grumble and complain, when I mock and criticise, I am 100% sure he would have no time for that at all. That's easy. But there are harder things to evaluate, things that still puzzle me. My divorce, for example. Whose fault was that? I thought I did my best, but, well, did I? My attitude to the church is another. I find most sermons and Bible studies and theological books so excruciatingly boring. Is that because they are, or because I'm shallow and not applying myself properly? I hoped he could tell me. And then there are some things I think might be part of my spiritual path, but might not be, like diet and exercise, making the best of myself. What does he think of that? What does he think of my weakness for ice cream and chocolate? Does it matter? Or not at all? Is it okay to eat chocolate that wasn't fairly traded if I can only afford the little chocolate treats they sell by the checkout? All these things I hoped he'd be able to tell me, weigh my life in the balance, and help me fill out a self-appraisal sheet so I'd know what to work on and what things I didn't have to bother about. But all he said was, I love you. And why does he love me? Does he love me because of the good things I've done, because of the bits of me that are lovable, like I'm fairly trustworthy and most of the time I tell the truth? Or does he love me like he loved Judas, because someone has to, and because I so need him to? That would be loving me then in spite of what I am? Or does he just love me unconditionally, faithfully, love like a rock, love that on the one hand sees through all my pretences, but on the other hand, and maybe for that very reason, asks no questions?